The stars above Earth had always seemed calm, endless, and quiet. But to the Galactic Empire, they were a web of opportunities and threats. For centuries, the Empire had charted galaxies, studied planets, and catalogued life forms. Every species they encountered fell into a predictable pattern. Some were aggressive, some were peaceful, most were weak. But humans had never fit into any pattern they knew. They were fast learners, inventive, and stubborn in ways the Empire could not explain. Even from afar, humanity seemed to pulse with potential, a strange energy that the Empire's scanners could not fully measure. Scouts had been watching Earth for decades. They had seen humans survive natural disasters, invent tools, and adapt to circumstances that would have wiped out many other species. They had noted the speed of human technological development. Cities grew taller and more complex every decade. Machines improved faster than expected. Humans explored the oceans, the sky, and even began sending tentative probes toward space. By any conventional measure, Earth was still a small and young planet. Yet the rate at which humans learned, solved problems, and innovated was unprecedented. The Empire's analysts were growing uneasy. The first full-scale reconnaissance mission to Earth was a silent arrival. The massive black ship drifted over the Pacific Ocean, far larger than any human vessel. Cloaked initially to avoid panic, inside, the Empire's officers watched human life below. From space, the planet looked like a fragile blue gem. Storms twisted across the oceans. Cities sparkled in patterns that suggested organization and culture. And yet, among the observers, there was a growing sense of uncertainty. The humans below were ordinary in appearance, thin, soft-bodied creatures, but the data suggested otherwise. They healed quickly, endured harsh climates, and their mental patterns showed an unusual flexibility. The Empire's genetic experts scratched their heads. No enhancements, no advanced modifications, nothing unnatural, and yet their resilience was extraordinary. The Empire decided it was time for first contact. A ship descended slowly, large enough to cast a shadow over entire cities. Humanity noticed it almost immediately. Cameras, satellites, and even amateur astronomers recorded the arrival. Governments were alerted, scientists hurried to their labs, and citizens watched with a mixture of fear, curiosity, and excitement. The Empire expected chaos, screams, perhaps riots. They expected humans to flee or hide. But nothing like that happened. Humans moved with remarkable calm. Military forces went on alert, but the movements were organized and measured. Scientists prepared data and communications channels, as if expecting a meeting rather than an invasion. The Empire could not comprehend this composure. They were used to fear. They were used to panic. Humanity was unfamiliar territory. The first communication came through loud, clear signals transmitted in multiple languages. The Empire's officers observed as humans responded with polite, formal greetings. Diplomatic protocols were enacted within hours. Humans invited the alien visitors to meet representatives from each continent. Each delegation was carefully selected, and each spoke with a confidence that unnerved the Empire. There were no demands, no threats, no panic. The humans seemed aware. They seemed aware of something the Empire could not understand, as if the species knew its own hidden strength and was calculating, quietly, what to reveal. When the Empire finally projected their holographic display of power, humans did not flinch. Massive fleets, planetary weapons, energy projections, they expected intimidation to work. The human leaders watched silently. Their faces did not change. They exchanged glances, whispered to one another, and then addressed the Empire with calm precision. They asked questions that tested the limits of alien technology. They noticed details that Empire officers assumed humans could not possibly understand. And through it all, their voices carried an undertone of certainty that disturbed the aliens. Humans were not fearful. Humans were not naive. Humans were waiting. Empire scientists tried to analyze human behavior. They were confused by humans' ability to cooperate despite disagreements. Their skill at solving problems under pressure. And their unique emotional control. Humans could face danger without panic. They could negotiate without yielding. They could innovate on the fly when faced with unexpected obstacles. The Empire compared them to every species in their database. No match existed. Humans were unpredictable. And unpredictability was dangerous. Not because it was chaotic, but because it suggested potential. The kind of potential that could challenge even a galactic empire if left unchecked. For weeks, the Empire observed the planet. They monitored cities, rural areas, and military installations. Everywhere they looked, they saw human resilience. People rebuilt after disasters with astonishing speed. They invented tools and methods that were elegant in simplicity, yet extremely effective. In one small coastal town, a storm had destroyed the harbor. Within days, engineers and volunteers had repaired the docks using makeshift materials, reinforcing them against future storms. The Empire's analysts were baffled. They could calculate probabilities, but humans defied statistics. Their ingenuity seemed limitless, their perseverance unbreakable. And most disturbing of all, the Empire realized humans were hiding something. They had not revealed their true capabilities. The first meeting on Earth took place in a neutral city, where humans had prepared elaborate arrangements. The Empire expected fear, subservience, or confusion. Instead, the humans welcomed them politely, showing no anxiety. The Empire demanded explanations, asking why humanity had not reached higher technological levels sooner. Humans responded with simple truths. Resources had been limited. Wars had slowed progress, and nature had forced them to adapt slowly. Yet their tone carried quiet confidence. They did not apologize for their limitations. They did not beg for mercy. They spoke as equals, not inferiors. The Empire had never encountered this before. Officers exchanged worried glances. They were trained to expect resistance or capitulation, but humans were neither. They were strategic. They were measured. Every word, every gesture, seemed deliberate. The Empire realized humans had patience. Unlike any species they had catalogued, they were willing to wait, observe, and act at the perfect moment. And when that moment came, they would act decisively. That thought unsettled the Empire deeply. In all the centuries of expansion, they had never met a species capable of such careful calculation. Humans also displayed unexpected adaptability in communication. They could read alien language patterns with rapid accuracy, learning complex structures within days. Empire linguists were astounded at the speed and precision of their learning. And even more remarkable was the humans' ability to interpret alien intentions and strategies. They could predict likely outcomes with astonishing correctness. It became clear that intelligence alone did not describe humanity. They were intuitive, analytical, and capable of foresight that rivaled the Empire's own most advanced computers. The tension in the room grew when the Empire attempted to assert dominance. They displayed holographic representations of their warships, projecting energy weapons that could destroy cities. The humans did not flinch. Instead, they asked questions that revealed flaws in the Empire's planning, gaps in their understanding of physics, and inefficiencies in strategy. No human weapon fired, no human army attacked. Yet the Empire felt threatened, not by aggression, but by insight. These humans were dangerous simply because they understood what the Empire could not, and they were just beginning. Outside the diplomatic chambers, humanity continued its quiet preparation. Engineers tested new energy grids. Scientists refined propulsion systems. Civilians built resilient infrastructure. No outward signs of weaponization were obvious, but the Empire's analysts began to suspect subtle layers of preparation hidden beneath ordinary life. Humans did not rush. They did not panic. They observed, they improved, and they waited. The Empire could detect none of this directly, but the pattern suggested something far more sophisticated than simple defense. It suggested planning on a level the Empire had not anticipated. By the end of the first month of contact, the Empire convened in secret chambers. Some members argued for restraint, insisting that humans had not shown true aggression. Others argued for immediate control, fearing what humanity could do if allowed to grow unchecked. Every analyst, however, admitted the same terrifying thought. Humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability could mask immense power. They had not unleashed it yet, but the potential was undeniable. And the more the Empire tried to understand humans, the more impossible it seemed. It was not strength that made humanity formidable. It was adaptability, creativity, and foresight, qualities the Empire had never measured before in any species. Meanwhile, humans on Earth continued their ordinary lives. Children went to school. Workers tended to farms and factories. Scientists conducted experiments. Leaders negotiated treaties. Nothing seemed extraordinary, yet every action was calculated, every step measured. Humanity had learned from its own history that overreaction could destroy progress. They had survived plagues, wars, and disasters, not by force alone but by thinking ahead, planning ahead, and adapting faster than any opponent. The Empire had assumed that raw strength mattered most. Humans were proving that intelligence, patience, and timing mattered more. As the Empire prepared for its next move, they could not shake a growing unease. Humans were not afraid. They were not weak. They were not ignorant. And most importantly, they were hiding something. The Galactic Empire, with all its resources, fleets, and knowledge, was facing a species that had the patience to observe, the skill to adapt, and the creativity to innovate in ways the Empire could not yet calculate. It was a dangerous combination, and for the first time, the Empire realized that humans had not even begun to show their true power. The Galactic Empire had never faced a species quite like humanity. Every mission, every calculation, every observation had led them to the same unsettling conclusion. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and frighteningly clever. In their secure chambers aboard the observation ship orbiting Earth, Empire scientists and commanders pored over data collected in the past month. Satellite footage, communications logs, even minor weather patterns had been analyzed. Everywhere they looked, humans demonstrated an ability to adapt, to solve problems, to improvise solutions that no other species could conceive. And yet, despite these observations, there was no outward sign of humans attempting to challenge the Empire. That calm, that silence, was far more unsettling than any threat. The Empire decided to increase their presence. Smaller ships were dispatched to key locations: scientific research centers, urban hubs, and military installations. These reconnaissance missions were meant to uncover humanity's limits, to identify weaknesses that could be exploited if necessary. What the Empire found instead was baffling. Humans moved like a coordinated network, yet without a visible command structure. Engineers in one city repaired power grids within hours after minor accidents. In rural areas, farmers built irrigation systems capable of withstanding storms that had previously ruined entire harvests. In laboratories, scientists conducted experiments that pushed the limits of physics, sometimes reaching conclusions before Empire scientists could even finish analyzing the data. Every attempt to measure human potential seemed to result in further surprises. Empire officers reported to their high command with growing concern. "They are remarkable," one said, his voice tight with unease. "They should not be capable of this. There is no genetic enhancement, no advanced augmentation, yet their efficiency, their adaptability, it is unlike anything we have catalogued." Others nodded, unable to disagree. They had prepared for hostile resistance, for ignorance, for panic. Humanity displayed none of those traits. Instead, they were calm, disciplined, and utterly unpredictable. This was a species that could learn faster, think faster, and act more effectively than the Empire's top analysts had anticipated. On Earth, humans themselves were aware of the Empire's presence, but they did not act with fear. Leaders convened councils that included scientists, strategists, and civilians. Decisions were made quickly but carefully, with every option considered. Unlike the Empire, Humans did not rely solely on force or technology. They relied on understanding, observation, and foresight. They had studied every pattern of the Empire's actions from the moment the first ship appeared. They knew the Empire expected panic, confusion, perhaps even rebellion. Instead, humans offered calm, polite resistance, coupled with carefully measured cooperation. They showed the Empire that submission was not required. Yet hostility would not be provoked. It was a delicate balance, one the Empire struggled to comprehend. Empire scouts began reporting anomalies. Human behavior in cities did not match predictions. Traffic patterns adapted almost instantly to disruptions. Energy usage was optimized in ways the Empire could not calculate. Communication networks rerouted themselves seamlessly after minor interference. Humans coordinated large groups with astonishing efficiency, using simple methods that required no advanced technology. One Empire officer remarked in disbelief, "They are not just solving problems, they are redesigning the problems themselves before we even notice them." In other words, humanity was rewriting the rules of engagement in real time, a skill that the Empire had never seen in any species. Meanwhile, humans quietly developed innovations that the Empire had assumed were impossible. Engineers in a small underground laboratory had built a prototype of a propulsion system that could travel at speeds approaching the theoretical limits of space travel. Scientists had designed energy grids capable of absorbing, storing, and distributing massive amounts of power without collapse. Even ordinary humans demonstrated extraordinary mental flexibility. They could calculate probabilities in their heads, devise complex strategies spontaneously, and improvise solutions to situations the Empire had considered unsolvable. And all of this was done without alarm, without chaos, without any display of aggression. It was subtle, methodical, and profoundly effective. The Empire grew anxious. High Command convened a secret council aboard their main fleet ship orbiting the planet. Generals, strategists, and scientists argued about the nature of humans. Some insisted that humans were simply clever, that their adaptability was impressive but limited. Others warned that humans were far more dangerous than they appeared. "They have not shown their true strength," a senior strategist said. "We have only observed the surface. Their calm is not weakness, it is discipline. And behind that discipline lies potential we cannot yet measure." The room fell silent. No one wanted to speak further, because the implication was clear. The Empire had underestimated humanity. Back on Earth, humans continued to operate as if nothing had changed. Cities ran smoothly, research continued, and governments maintained stability. Yet beneath this ordinary exterior, preparations were quietly underway. Humans had analyzed every possible action the Empire might take. Every fleet movement, every communication, every subtle attempt at coercion had been studied and recorded. Human strategists had identified potential points of vulnerability in their own systems, not to exploit, but to fortify. Every action the Empire took was met with a calculated response, designed to maintain balance, without revealing humanity's full potential. The aliens believed they were in control, yet humans were quietly rewriting the rules. One of the Empire's attempts to intimidate humans backfired spectacularly. A small fleet approached a major city, projecting a show of force intended to demonstrate superiority. Empire commanders expected panic, perhaps a small defensive reaction. Instead, humans organized emergency response teams, evacuated civilians efficiently, and projected calm authority. The Empire had expected fear. They received precision and control. Humans had turned the Empire's display into a demonstration of human coordination, revealing that strength alone did not intimidate this species. Intelligence, organization, and adaptability mattered more. Empire analysts were forced to report their findings with increasing urgency. Humans were not just surviving, they were thriving under conditions designed to test them. They were not reacting, they were anticipating. Every calculated move by the Empire was met with a response that preserved human stability and maintained balance. Empire scientists began to suspect that humans were operating under a hidden level of intelligence that surpassed even their most advanced AI systems. Humans were capable of rapid learning, pattern recognition, and problem-solving that defied conventional measurement. The Empire realized they were observing a species operating at the edge of its potential without even realizing it. Despite their growing unease, the Empire attempted diplomacy once again. They offered trade, technology exchanges, and even assistance, believing that showing generosity might coax humans into dependence. Humans responded with careful consideration. They accepted certain exchanges, but they did not become reliant on the Empire. They evaluated each offer, measured potential benefits and risks, and proceeded in a way that maintained autonomy. The Empire found this frustrating. They expected manipulation to work, but humans were not manipulable. Humans were not predictable. They acted on knowledge, reasoning, and careful planning. And all the while, humans remained calm. It became clear that the Empire's assumptions were flawed. Humans were not primitives in the conventional sense. They were an evolving force, one that could operate in unpredictable ways. The Empire's attempts to calculate outcomes, to predict behavior, were failing. Patterns that had worked with other species did not apply here. Humans adapted too quickly, improvised too effectively, and learned too fast. The Empire realized that they had underestimated the very essence of what made humanity powerful. Their ability to combine intelligence, creativity, and adaptability into a single, coordinated force. Humans themselves began to explore subtle ways to demonstrate their potential without revealing everything. They conducted experiments, tested energy systems, and developed technologies in secrecy, knowing that the Empire's observation systems were monitoring them. And yet, they allowed the Empire to see enough to create uncertainty, doubt, and anxiety. The humans were teaching the Empire that appearances could be deceiving, that strength was not always obvious, and that patience could be as formidable as power. They were sending a quiet message. Humanity's full capabilities were not yet revealed. And when the time came, it would be undeniable. One human scientist working on a research project in a remote facility noticed an unusual anomaly in the Empire's sensors. The aliens were probing, scanning, and attempting to understand human innovations. Instead of panic, the scientist smiled. Every calculation, every adjustment, and every test was designed to stay just below the detection threshold, allowing humans to maintain secrecy, while the Empire believed they understood the situation. Humans were controlling the perception of their abilities, demonstrating foresight that was almost tactical in its precision. The Empire believed it was observing control. Humans knew they were being observed, and used that to their advantage. As weeks turned into months, the Empire grew increasingly cautious. Fleet movements became slower, communication more measured, and every interaction was calculated. High Command began issuing warnings. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were unpredictable, adaptable, and remarkably efficient. There was no overt aggression yet, but the potential for it was evident. Humans had not even revealed their true power, and the Empire began to understand that when they did, it could change the balance of the galaxy. For the first time in its history, the Galactic Empire faced uncertainty on a scale it could not easily manage. Throughout all this, humans maintained their ordinary appearance. Children played in parks, workers went about their daily routines, scientists conducted experiments, and leaders held meetings. There was no outward sign of extraordinary preparation, but beneath the surface, humans were building, learning, and adapting at a rate that stunned their observers. They were a species that had learned from history, that had survived countless crises, and that had developed resilience not through brute force, but through intelligence, discipline, and creativity. The Empire had expected fear, chaos, and weakness. Instead, they found patience, control, and hidden strength. One night, as the Empire officers gathered to discuss the latest reports, the reality sank in. Humans were not merely surviving, they were thriving under scrutiny. Every step, every innovation, every act of organization and cooperation was evidence of a species capable of far more than anyone had imagined. The Empire had assumed superiority based on size, technology, and history. Humans proved that superiority was not only measured in fleets or weapons, it could be measured in adaptability, foresight, and the quiet, relentless ability to learn and improve. The realization was both terrifying and humbling. Humans had not even begun to reveal their true power. And that, the Empire understood, made them the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen. The Galactic Empire had watched, measured, and calculated humanity's potential for months. Every report brought a mix of awe and dread. Humans were clever, adaptive, and resilient beyond expectation. Yet, they had shown no signs of aggression, no overt weaponization, and no attempts to dominate. The Empire had assumed patience equaled weakness. It did not. Humans were waiting, observing, and preparing. And now, that waiting was about to be tested. High Command convened a secret council aboard the Empire's largest fleet station orbiting Earth. Fleet commanders, strategists, and scientists argued heatedly. Some advocated for further observation, claiming that humans had yet to reveal their limits. Others demanded immediate action, occupation, control, and if necessary, destruction. They feared that delay would allow humans to grow stronger, to gain knowledge that could threaten the Empire's dominance. The debates were fierce, but one thing became clear. Humans were a species that could not be underestimated. Their calm, their intelligence, their discipline, it all suggested that when provoked, humans could act in ways the Empire could not predict. The decision was made to pressure humanity directly. A fleet of warships, far larger than any the planet had ever seen, moved into Earth's orbit. They blocked major spaceports, monitored communications, and demanded that human governments surrender control of strategic technologies. The Empire assumed that fear would force compliance. They expected humans to panic, to negotiate from weakness, perhaps to beg for mercy. But humanity did not react with fear. Instead, they responded with the same quiet calculation that had defined them from the start. Governments issued calm statements, urging cooperation, but not surrender. Scientists and engineers continued their work, showing no disruption in operations. Citizens carried on with daily life, maintaining calm discipline. To the Empire, it was unnerving. The humans were not intimidated. They were not scrambling for safety. They were responding as if the Empire's fleet were a test, not a threat. Empire commanders decided to escalate. They sent patrols to strategic locations on Earth, demanding access to research facilities and power grids. They intended to show dominance, to remind humans who controlled the skies. The humans welcomed the Empire with carefully arranged protocols. At first, it seemed like compliance. But the Empire soon realized that humans were not cooperating out of fear. They were allowing observation in order to study the Empire itself. Every movement, every order, every protocol was noted, analyzed, and anticipated. Humans were learning about their observers while appearing to comply. At a research facility in the mountains, a team of human scientists and engineers worked quietly. The Empire had assumed that the facility contained ordinary research chemical experiments, energy studies, or technological prototypes. What they did not know was that the humans had designed layers of preparation within the facility. Every door, every corridor, every security system had hidden redundancies. Small automated systems adapted in real time. Sensors and cameras recorded every intrusion. Every alarm triggered a response designed to manage the threat without revealing the facility's full capabilities. The Empire soldiers who entered assumed they controlled the situation. They did not. The humans moved with precision. Engineers operated control panels, rerouted energy, and adjusted systems in ways the Empire could not comprehend. The soldiers expected resistance, confrontation, perhaps even panic. Instead, they encountered coordination that was almost unnatural in its efficiency. Doors opened only where they were supposed to. Alarms signaled false vulnerabilities, and the facility's systems adjusted themselves faster than any soldier could react. The Empire realized, too late, that they were dealing with a species that had planned for every possible scenario. Humans had created a controlled battlefield inside what appeared to be an ordinary research facility. Every move the Empire made was anticipated, measured, and countered, not with aggression, but with skill, calculation, and discipline. The Empire fleet above noticed the unusual delays in reports. Communication had been disrupted. Systems appeared to malfunction, and the soldiers' accounts were inconsistent. Panic began to ripple among commanders. Humans were not just defending, they were managing every detail. They were turning the Empire's aggression into a carefully orchestrated display of control. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was profoundly effective. The humans had not even revealed their full strength. The Empire was beginning to understand that they had misjudged the species completely. Outside the facility, humans coordinated responses across the globe. Scientists, engineers, and military personnel communicated in ways the Empire could not trace. Energy grids stabilized themselves, communication networks rerouted around disruptions, and transportation systems adapted to maintain order. Humans did not panic. Humans did not retaliate aggressively. They demonstrated the kind of discipline that the Empire had never witnessed in any other species. Every movement, every adjustment, every decision was designed to preserve life and maintain stability. Yet, at the same time, they were teaching the Empire a lesson about patience, strategy, and hidden potential. Inside the facility, the Empire soldiers finally realized the truth. Their scanners had failed to detect the true complexity of the systems around them. Human engineers had anticipated their presence and created simulations to mislead them. Automated defenses had been activated, but no weapons had been fired. Every alarm, every restriction, every obstacle had been carefully calibrated to demonstrate human control without revealing destructive capability. The soldiers reported back with fear, confusion, and awe. Humans had not even begun to unleash their power, and yet the Empire felt the weight of that potential. Back on Earth, the Human Council convened in a secure location. They discussed the Empire's actions calmly, analyzing every fleet movement, every patrol, and every communication. They were not angry. They were not panicked. They were calculating. They understood that the Empire's aggression was a test, a measure of human patience, intelligence, and strategy. And humans were more than ready to respond. They had been preparing for this moment for decades, quietly developing technologies, studying the Empire, and perfecting coordination. The calm, ordinary appearance of daily life concealed extraordinary capability. The Empire, meanwhile, began to lose confidence. They had assumed that dominance could be asserted through force. They had expected fear to enforce compliance. But humanity's calm, disciplined response created doubt, confusion, and growing anxiety. High Command struggled to predict what humans would do next. The fleet, once confident, now moved cautiously. Every maneuver was measured. Every signal monitored for hidden intent. The Empire realized, finally, that humans were not just defending, they were leading the encounter on their own terms. A demonstration of human strategy occurred when the Empire attempted to seize a major power station. They expected immediate control, expecting humans to comply under threat. Instead, humans allowed the initial boarding, but had already prepared contingencies. Power systems rerouted energy through hidden channels. Automated systems created false signals to confuse sensors, and as the soldiers moved, human engineers quietly adjusted the environment to maximize efficiency and safety. No shots were fired. No alarms screamed. Yet the Empire's plan had failed completely. They had walked into a situation they could not control, orchestrated by humans who had not even revealed their true strength. The Empire's reports were increasingly frantic. Human coordination, adaptability, and foresight defied every calculation. Every expected outcome failed. Systems behaved unpredictably, yet not chaotically. Humans improvised, adjusted, and optimized in real time. The Empire realized they were witnessing intelligence combined with creativity in a way they had never observed. This was not raw power, it was control. A species capable of manipulating every element of their environment, anticipating every move of a superior fleet, and maintaining order under pressure. The Empire had assumed humans were weak. They were wrong. Above Earth, fleet commanders convened again. Tension filled the command room. Some suggested retreat. Others demanded escalation. But all understood that they were facing a species whose true power was hidden. Every move so far had been deliberate, every reaction measured. The Empire's calculations failed to predict human behavior. The calm patience of humans, their quiet control of every scenario, and their ability to innovate in real time, made them the most dangerous species the Empire had ever encountered. For the first time, they questioned whether aggression would provoke disaster. The humans themselves remained calm, ordinary, and measured. Civilians continued daily life. Scientists continued experiments. Engineers maintained infrastructure. Leaders communicated clearly and efficiently. No one panicked. Yet beneath this surface, humans prepared for the next phase, aware that the Empire had crossed a line. They had allowed observation, measured compliance, and demonstrated subtle control. Now, they would reveal just enough to ensure the Empire understood the risk of miscalculation. The first sign came in subtle ways. Communications channels suddenly rerouted around Empire monitoring. Energy grids stabilized in unexpected patterns. Automated systems activated in coordination across the globe. Humans did not strike. They did not attack. They simply demonstrated control. The Empire's patrols, observing from space and within Earth's atmosphere, found themselves misled at every turn. Every system, every response, every detail had been anticipated by humans who had not even revealed their full capabilities. The subtlety was frightening. Humanity had created an invisible battlefield, one the Empire could not control. Inside the Empire fleet, panic began to spread. Officers whispered about the humans' hidden potential. Strategists argued that humans must possess unknown technologies, perhaps hidden weapons of mass destruction, but no overt weapons had been observed. The threat was intelligence, strategy, and patience. Humans could predict, adapt, and optimize in ways the Empire could not comprehend. The realization struck them with chilling clarity. Humanity had not even begun to fight, and yet the Empire was already losing control of the encounter. Back on Earth, the Human Council discussed the next steps. They did not plan destruction, they planned deterrence. They would not provoke war, but they would ensure that any attempt at aggression by the Empire would fail. Their preparations were complete, their strategies flawless, and their patience unwavering. Humans had learned the art of restraint, of observation, of preparation. The Empire had assumed patience was weakness. Humanity had proved it was far more dangerous. As the Empire reconsidered its actions, the humans sent a simple message. There was no threat, no aggression, only clarity. We will not surrender. We will not panic. We are prepared to defend our planet and our people, but know this: our true power is not yet revealed. The words were calm, deliberate, and unnervingly precise. The Empire understood the meaning instantly. Humanity's restraint was not a sign of weakness. It was a demonstration of control, a warning, a promise. And in that moment, the Galactic Empire realized the truth. Humans had not even unleashed their true power. The Galactic Empire had entered Earth's orbit with the confidence of centuries of conquest. Their fleets were massive, their weapons advanced, and their strategies precise. They had faced countless species, and every civilization had fallen before them in some way. They had never met a species that could adapt, anticipate, and respond so effectively without aggression. Humanity was different. For months, the Empire had tested them, pressured them, and assumed that their calm would falter under fear. It did not. Humans had observed, adapted, and outmaneuvered them at every turn. Now, the Empire faced a reality it could no longer ignore. Humans had not yet unleashed their true power. They had defended, evaded, and controlled, without resorting to weapons or overt displays of force. And yet, every step the Empire had taken had been anticipated, every response measured, every action countered in ways that were almost invisible. The humans had created a battlefield within ordinary life, and the Empire had walked into it unaware. On Earth, human leaders convened once more, this time in a secure underground facility that had been designed to withstand the most extreme scenarios. They did not celebrate, nor did they show fear. They analyzed the Empire's latest fleet movements, reviewed communications, and calculated probabilities. Engineers, scientists, and strategists worked together seamlessly. Every system, from energy grids to transportation networks, was coordinated. Every civilian, every worker, every soldier was part of a plan that required no panic, only precision. The humans had prepared for this moment for decades, quietly building, studying, and anticipating the day when the Empire might overstep. The first demonstration of human ingenuity came not with weapons, but with information. Humans allowed the Empire to access certain data streams, giving them a false sense of understanding. The Empire monitored satellite communications, intercepted transmissions, and believed they had uncovered human capabilities. In reality, humans had crafted a network of misdirection. Every channel, every signal, every transmission was carefully constructed to appear ordinary, while concealing the true scope of their power. The Empire had no idea how much they had underestimated humanity. Simultaneously, humans activated technologies that had been quietly developed in secret. Massive energy converters stabilized the planet's magnetic field, ensuring that attempts at orbital interference would fail. Communication networks rerouted instantaneously, adapting to any interruption. Defense systems, designed to appear simple, operated with such precision that the Empire's scouts could not identify vulnerabilities. Humans had created systems that worked in concert, combining engineering, strategy, and innovation in ways that were unprecedented. In orbit, the Empire fleet attempted to assert control once more. They deployed scanning drones, attempted to jam communications, and maneuvered warships to block strategic locations. They expected the humans to panic or to make desperate moves. Instead, humans responded with calm, coordinated precision. The drones were intercepted and redirected harmlessly. Communications continued without disruption, and energy systems rerouted automatically. Every action by the Empire was met with a response that neutralized threats without aggression. The humans had created a perfect balance of defense and control, demonstrating that their restraint was not weakness, but strength. The Empire's analysts grew increasingly anxious. Humans were capable of real-time problem-solving on a scale that no other species had achieved. They adapted, improvised, and optimized faster than the Empire's most advanced computers. The humans' calm demeanor, their ordinary appearance, and their measured responses concealed the true depth of their capabilities. Every move the Empire made seemed predicted. Every action anticipated. The officers aboard the fleet, ships whispered among themselves. For the first time in centuries, they did not feel in control. They felt observed, studied, and understood by a species they had assumed to be primitive. The turning point came when humans demonstrated mobility and coordination at a level the Empire could not calculate. Human spacecraft, previously assumed to be simple and limited, launched from hidden facilities around the globe. These ships were faster, more efficient, and more adaptive than anything the Empire had encountered. They did not attack with destructive force but moved in precise formations that demonstrated mastery over physics, energy, and maneuverability. Each movement was calculated, every trajectory optimized. The Empire's fleet found itself outmaneuvered without a single shot being fired. The human strategy was clear. They had not sought war. They had not sought to dominate. They had sought control over perception, control over outcomes, and control over the situation. By remaining calm, by responding intelligently, and by utilizing hidden technological advantages, they forced the Empire to realize the truth. Humanity's power was not in destruction, but in mastery. They had not unleashed chaos. They had unleashed order on a level that the Empire could not comprehend. Back on Earth, human strategists monitored every orbital movement. They coordinated responses with precision. Engineers adjusted energy flows, scientists optimized communication networks, and military personnel executed simulations of potential Empire actions. Civilians maintained normal routines, but every step was part of a larger system of coordination. The humans' brilliance was not flashy. It was subtle, disciplined, and almost invisible, yet it was undeniable. The Empire could not find a weakness, because the humans had anticipated every weakness and neutralized it in advance. The next phase was the revelation of human innovation. Humans displayed energy systems capable of creating force fields that could withstand extreme weaponry. Propulsion systems allowed ships to travel at near light speeds, and fabrication systems could produce tools and materials almost instantly. These were technologies the Empire had assumed were impossible for a species at humanity's apparent technological level. The humans had hidden these capabilities, allowing the Empire to underestimate them. And now the truth was emerging. It was not aggression that shocked the Empire, it was potential. As the Empire fleet attempted to respond, human commanders demonstrated strategic brilliance that combined intelligence, technology, and coordination. They did not attack, they neutralized threats with calculated precision. Systems adapted to every maneuver. Energy grids shifted in response to interference. Communication networks rerouted automatically. Defense mechanisms operated seamlessly. Every step was designed to demonstrate mastery, to reveal power without unnecessary destruction. The Empire had faced countless civilizations, but never one that combined foresight, discipline, and adaptability in such a complete manner. In the command centers aboard human ships, officers coordinated every action with calm authority. They analyzed enemy movements, predicted outcomes, and optimized responses. Human scientists calculated energy distributions, refined propulsion systems, and monitored every variable. Civilians in strategic locations participated seamlessly, following plans that ensured continuity and efficiency. It was a demonstration of power that did not rely on fear or destruction. It relied on mastery, intelligence, and coordination on a scale that the Empire could not hope to match. The Empire's high command convened a final council. The room was filled with tension, anxiety, and disbelief. Every report confirmed the same truth. Humans had not yet unleashed their full capabilities, and what they had shown was already beyond comprehension. Generals argued, strategists debated, but all understood that the confrontation had reached a turning point. Humans were no longer merely defending, they were controlling the engagement entirely. The Empire could no longer claim superiority. They were facing a species that had mastered patience, intelligence, and technology in ways that were unprecedented. The humans then sent a message, simple, calm, and deliberate. We prefer peace. We do not seek war. But if you force us to act, you will see the full extent of our capabilities. Know this. What you have observed so far is only a fraction of our potential. The words were not a threat. They were a statement of truth. The Empire understood immediately that humanity's restraint was not weakness. It was discipline, foresight, and mastery. The full extent of human power had not been revealed, and the possibility of its revelation was enough to force the Empire to reconsider everything. One by one, the Empire's ships began to withdraw from Earth's orbit. The fleet moved cautiously, maintaining distance while observing human actions. Every commander understood that further aggression could provoke consequences beyond calculation. They had faced advanced species before, but none with such combination of intelligence, adaptability, and hidden capability. Humanity had revealed enough to establish dominance without striking a blow. They had shown that mastery, coordination, and patience could be more powerful than overwhelming force. On Earth, human leaders observed the fleet's retreat with calm satisfaction. They had demonstrated their power without destruction. They had preserved life, maintained order, and revealed their capability on their own terms. The humans had proven that restraint, discipline, and intelligence could shape outcomes far more effectively than aggression. The planet remained peaceful. Cities continued their routines, and civilians went about their lives unaware of the full scale of human brilliance. Humanity had not sought to dominate. Yet, they had asserted control over a situation that had threatened to spiral into conflict. The Galactic Empire left with a new understanding. Humans were not merely a species, they were a force. Not a force of destruction, but of mastery, creativity, and unparalleled adaptability. The whispers among alien civilizations began. If this was humanity holding back, what would happen when they no longer restrained themselves? The galaxy had observed a species that had survived countless challenges, mastered complex systems, and demonstrated intelligence on an unprecedented scale. And the Empire knew that they had underestimated humanity, perhaps fatally. Humanity had revealed just enough to send a message. Their true power was not in weapons or brute force, it was in intelligence, adaptability, foresight, and the ability to coordinate every element of their existence toward mastery of any situation. They had survived, they had defended, and they had demonstrated control without aggression. And the Empire, once proud and certain, was left to reconsider everything it knew about strength, dominance, and the limits of life in the galaxy. The lesson was clear. Humans had not yet unleashed their true power, and the galaxy would never forget the quiet, disciplined, and unmatched force of a species that had mastered the art of patience, preparation, and intelligence.